Would you accept ads on your devices in return for free data?
And do we need a streaming app for live radio? Vertical Hold is proudly brought to you by Alcatel. Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Adam Turner and I'm joined by a man who figures at this stage that he's got to shank 2016 before it shanks him, Alex Kidman. We're also once again joined by friend of the show and picker.com.au editor, Leigh Stark. Leigh, welcome back to the show.
Thanks guys, always happy to be here.
Alex, what's new in tech?
Telstra has expanded the scope of its deal with worldwide Wi-Fi provider FON, opening up hotspots worldwide to Telstra mobile customers. Previously, you had to be a broadband customer with a FON-compatible gateway sharing some of your bandwidth with Telstra's Air network. But for now, if you're a Telstra mobile customer who's at least logged into a Telstra Air hotspot once, you should be good to go with FON's global network. Telstra has struggled to come up with a pricing model for Air that makes sense and has largely offered it for free to its customer base since its inception.
Netflix is finally letting subscribers download videos to watch them offline. Likely to trigger a mobile data gridlock at the airport as people stock up on Stranger Things and Marco Polo before they jump on their flight. The feature is limited to mobile devices and only works with some content such as Netflix originals.
QuickFlix, Australia's original streaming service, is set to relaunch itself, promising Hollywood blockbusters months before Netflix. It'll primarily operate on a pay-as-you-go basis, making it more of a competitor to services such as Google Play Movies or Apple's iTunes rather than Netflix or Stan.
Fitness band maker Fitbit is reportedly shaping up to buy out wearables pioneer Pebble, which makes smartwatches with an e-ink screen and began life as a Kickstarter project. Pebble has been in financial trouble of late, and the deal would reportedly see Pebble phase out its smartwatches, with Fitbit more interested in Pebble's intellectual property.
So Adam, Netflix is letting you take its video content offline. Is this something we should all be celebrating?
I think so. It's something that people have been asking for a long time, and it's just that kind of thing. Like I said, you're getting on a flight, or you're going to be on mobile broadband for a while, maybe going on a long drive, and it would just be so great to stock up on a couple of episodes or something you want to catch up on. So I reckon they're on a winner here. Leigh, are you a Netflix man, and would you download stuff to watch offline?
I totally would. I logged on the moment I saw the story and I'm like, yes, Archer. No, Rick and Morty. At least they have made it so it's more than just Netflix originals. As you say, all the Netflix originals are kind of what make this thing shine. But there's more to it than that. You got some of the FX shows. What I really wish they'd do, to be honest, is just open up more of the American library to Australia. That's what I really crave at this point.
The thing there, of course, is there's the rights issue around that because Stan has some of that stuff and Foxtel's got some more of it, so it's maybe not that simple. Also, it's not quite all the Netflix originals. As I understand it, the Marvel properties specifically are not available for offline viewing, and it's also kind of limited in that you've really pretty much got to do it one episode at a time, which sucks if you've got a whole season that you wanted to catch up on for that long flight over to Europe or the US.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
The other thing that annoyed me is it looks like there's a time limit on things. You've got somewhere between 2 days and 7 days to watch it before it's deleted off your device. Now, I want to just keep a stash of Archer on my phone. I want 3 or 4 episodes up my sleeve, so if I get stuck on a flight or stuck in an airport or whatever, I can just call on them when I want them. So to download them and know they're going to be lost. Yes,
Adam.
mate. Yes.
Adam.
Yes.
Adam.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm doing an Archer thing to you. What I was going to say
just
was...
like the gypsy woman said.
It's just like the gypsy woman said. What I was going to say was it's kind of like Amazon Video, which still hasn't technically launched in this country.
The thing that's launched but not launched. It's
Schrodinger's
video.
Not quite launched. It's not a public launch yet.
Yes.
I mean, that has a similar thing. In theory, you have something like the 14 days or something to watch it. And I tried that and found that you could actually get a little bit more out of it. And I wasn't quite sure why that was the case, but apparently you could.
Okay, well, I haven't had a chance to test it on Netflix. To be honest, when I saw the email this morning on my phone, I was still half awake, and the first thing I thought is, this is a scam. Because I wasn't sure whether Netflix was ever going to do this, and the email had a big thing in it that said, download the new version of the app here. And that reflex went, no, never click on a link in an email. So I had to go to Google News and actually check that this wasn't just a very clever phishing scheme.
I think the other thing here, though, is it's the scenario we keep coming up with is plane flights, and I guess it's great if you fly very low-cost airlines because a lot of them don't do the in-seat entertainment. But actually, in their defence, I think a lot of them have been getting a lot better with the in-flight entertainment, even if you're flying, in the cheap, scummy seats. I've been genuinely surprised the last couple of times I've flown. I take a fair amount of entertainment preloaded onto a device with me anyway, and yes, the next time I fly, invariably some of that will be some Netflix material. But I do that because I figure, well, just in case the thing crashes or I'm in the seat where the screen in front of me doesn't work.
Yeah.
But so far that hasn't happened, and really that stuff tends to sit in my bag, not being used at all. So I reckon 2 to 7 days it's not a bad little compromise point. I mean, Adam, do you really see yourself trekking anywhere where you're not going to have some kind of broadband access for between 2 to 7 days?
You mean apart from my house?
Go Australia.
Yeah. In this country, you never bloody know. I've always had that problem when I want to go on family holidays because I'm a freelancer. I need to, if we're going camping in the middle of nowhere, I need to ring ahead and say, hey, what's the mobile broadband like around there? So yeah, there are still times when you can be away from it all. But as I said, I like the idea of just chucking a few things on there and just leaving them there in case of an emergency. I know Qantas has an app these days, so even if you don't have a screen or whatever, you can turn your phone on, connect to their server on the plane and watch stuff. Do the other airlines have that?
Yeah, so Virgin had one, and I was on a Cathay flight recently, and I'm pretty sure they had one, and it seems to be becoming more of a thing, so that, you can still log on and watch using your phone, using in-flight Wi-Fi, which for a time I'm pretty sure everyone thought was going to bring the plane down, and now fortunately doesn't.
So, Alex, I saw in passing something about Optus giving you free data, but you've got to watch ads. Now, these kind of things have been going on for a long time. How does this deal work?
Yeah, well, you're right in that it's not a terribly new concept. What Optus has done here is for prepaid mobile customers, it's launched an Android app, and it's Android only, but an Android app that displays ads on your Android phone's lock screen. And if you're on one of their prepaid deals and you have this app running and you display ads for 28 consecutive days, you will either get an additional 1 gig of data on your plan, or if you're on their day-to-day plan, which is a very weird little offering, you'll get $2 worth of credit, which is enough for a day's usage.
Well, it's not too bad. That's maybe enough to get. It depends what they're going to put on your lock screen, I guess. Hope they're a little bit considerate about what they run. Leigh, are you an Android man or an iPhone man? Would you use something like this?
Well, I'm an Android guy, but I'm not on Optus prepaid. I'm on Telstra prepaid. But for me, the dilemma actually becomes that it's turning you into basically a mobile, I guess, billboard. And I'm not sure if I really want my phone to take to have 28 days of ad usage just so I can get a measly 1 gigabyte. The weirdest thing for me is that in a way it feels like they're preparing me back for ads. I mean, everything we've done on the age of the internet right now is to run away from them. Ad blockers and Netflix, so we were just talking about there are no ads there. But when we go back to this is the preparation for ads. And someone I spoke to about this today, because I was trying to work out how much an ad was roughly worth. And when you calculate, you take $2, which is that set amount for 28 days, and you take the rough 85 times that we apparently view our mobile phone, you multiply that by the month, you get 0.0008 of a cent that this is actually worth. And I think what bothers me about that is that our screen time is really not worth that much to anyone, and yet for someone, they still want to take advantage of it for something that is so measly. For like $2 is nothing, and a gigabyte is nothing. I know it's something on prepaid, but the first people to download this will be people going, yeah, I'm going to get a free gig 28 days later. Yeah, that wasn't really worth it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that I could throw your calculations out a bit because, of course, it's not just the 85 times you're looking at the screen. Every time you bring your screen up, and you're sitting on a train or sitting on a bus, suddenly you're advertising to everyone around you, and they will have calculated against that as well. What I find interesting about this deal as well is, of course, the timing on it. You've actually got to run it for 28 days, and for the most popular of Optus's prepaid plans, that's the expiry period too. So what it also acts as is it's a clever little hook to get you to recharge. instead of being a 1 month Optus customer, you're a 2 month Optus customer. Because certainly, if you're going to sit there and put up with the ads on your device for 28 days,
you've got to sign up for the second month to get your value. Oh,
exactly.
yeah, smart. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, and it's one that you can see sort of people getting accustomed to simply because we're becoming so, I guess, easy to persuade. Like, look at the cash registers at Coles and Woolies, where we have to do it ourselves. There's no actual gimme given back, even though you're technically doing the work that someone else could actually be done with a self-system cash register. And this is kind of, in a way, I feel like it's much the same sort of thing. You're doing the advertiser's job for them, that you might actually click on an ad, but at least you're given something extra, even if that something is very, very piddly.
You're also, though, blocking out, depending on whose figures you believe, anywhere between a third to half of your user base, because, of course, this is also Android only. And the reasoning for that is fairly obvious, because Apple just won't let you launch things on a lock screen like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. The first thing you realise when you realise that this is Android only, I know I've used the word realise too many times there, but quite seriously, this is Android only because Android is a very customisable, very modular system. And so you can replace the lock screen, you can replace the keyboard, you can replace the home screen. And that's where it gets really interesting. If you can replace the lock screen to be ad-based, can you replace the keyboard to be ad-based, and then can you replace the home screen to be ad-based? How far is it until Optus or Telstra or whoever releases a very, very, very advertiser-friendly version of Android?
Well, we've already had kind of experiments in that way, I guess, with things like the Facebook phone, or even the Amazon's Fire phones, which were all very heavily kind of labelled in that kind of way. So I think the toes have been dipped there. But again, I mean, we said this at the start, this is not an original idea. Labara had a very similar offer last year, and if you go back, there have been ISPs who've offered either additional data, or even, going back into the days of dial-up, and I'm dating myself here, but going back into the days of dial-up, actual connection time in return for having ads always displaying on your desktop. None of those offers seem to have set the world on fire, and I think in some ways Optus, of course, they're not taking a huge risk with this. I suspect what they'll find is that a lot of people will install it, maybe run the ads for the week, just go, oh god, this is really kind of irritating. Even if the customizability of the ads means that it's not serving up too much stuff that's genuinely objectionable to you, I think a lot of people will use it for about a week and then figure, this is way too irritating, get rid of it. And then Optus has got a few free ads. It hasn't had to give you any free data. It's won. You haven't lost that much except maybe a bit of your concentration and I guess a little bit of your battery life for serving the ads in the first place. And that's probably where it's going to end, I suspect.
The other thing is, like, a man's lock screen is his own personal kingdom, to quote Blackadder, and I'm just not sure if people want to give that up. People love their customization. Everybody, even if you know nothing about how to use a smartphone, you still know how to change the lock screen and change the background and have a photo of your kids or whatever, and I'm not sure whether people will be prepared to put up with that in the long term, because it's almost like the grandparents on the train saying, have you seen photos of my kids? People like to show people their lock screen, and I don't know if they want an ad for Coles on it.
Have you seen this ad for the latest Daz washing powder? It's amazing.
That's where you have the kid market pretty much completely nailed. I mean, you get your kids a prepaid phone. You don't want to get them credit. They're going to churn through 1 gig with no problems. That's it in a nutshell. They run ads on it. You've paid for a gig.
Yeah, but I don't trust them to not show my kids inappropriate ads. I've seen what free-to-air television considers appropriate ads.
So, Adam, the commercial radio industry is trying to convince us that it once again has the all-singing, all-dancing solution to our radio streaming problems. But have they just gone radio gaga?
Well, they obviously spent a lot of money on figuring out the good name for their app. It's called Radio App. So, the consultants really earned their money there. It's a name that tells you what it does, and that's pretty much all it does. It doesn't do much, but what it does pretty well. You get this app. It's free for Apple and Android. You can search for your local terrestrial radio stations via name, via location, via frequency, and it's got about 250 stations on there from across the country. And unlike the bloody Freeview app, it doesn't try to say to you, oh, you're in Melbourne, so you can't listen to 2GB, or it doesn't try to region block the stations, which is good. And that's about all it does. You can make favorites, you press play, the streaming's about 30 to 60 seconds behind live because that's just how streaming works. The sound quality's pretty good, but I mean nowhere on near, it's not going to match a Spotify or a Google Play or whatever that's 320 kilobits per second. But for the radio, it's quite listenable.
Is this good? So is this good for FM radio, good for digital radio, good for AM radio? Give me a scale here.
Well, it's good for all of them. It's one of the reasons I figured out why it doesn't sound too bad is because you don't have to worry about static. The way I check the delay on it is I got my little pocket radio that I take to the football out of the cupboard, and I live in a valley, so the reception here is pretty bad for everything. So I put on the radio to listen to see how much the lag was. And then thought, gee, the phone sounds good, so pretty good because there's no static, there's no interference. I didn't have to mess around with tuning. I don't have, 3AK, the Greek station, whatever it is in the background coming through. I just got what I wanted. So from that perspective, it's actually pretty good.
I was going to ask an odd question though. Is it basically just tuned in under a different name? Because hasn't Tuned In had this sort of thing for years and years?
No, it's Tuned In Lite under a different name. Because Tuned In does a hell of a lot more than this. And the big things that Tuned In does is one, this app comes from Commercial Radio Australia. So it has the commercial stations, your Triple M's, your Fox FM's, all that kind of stuff, and your AM commercial stations. It has the national broadcasters, so ABC and SBS, but no community radio, no Triple R, no PBS, no Joy FM, no Light FM, none of that. So if you go to TuneIn, everything that you'll find in this radio app is there, but you'll also find all the community stations from around it, or most of the community stations. If they have a digital stream anywhere, pretty much it'll turn up in TuneIn. But then you can say, oh, well, I want to listen to radio from Chicago, or I want to listen to radio from Auckland, and it doesn't matter. So TuneIn does so much more than this. TuneIn actually lets you pause live streams. This app has a pause button, but it don't actually pause, because when you unpause it, it doesn't pick up from where it left off. So it's a mute button. Yeah, it's basically a mute button.
It seems like a half measure.
Yeah, but I don't know whether they're intending to make that work like a pause button down the track or what the story is there. There's no pause, there's no rewind, there's no record. TuneIn will do pause and it will buffer. As soon as you get onto a station, it's a little bit like a PVR. TuneIn will start to buffer. So you can pause at any time, you can go back earlier. I think you have to pay for the pro version of TuneIn to record, which is, I don't know, $3 or whatever. So yeah, if you've got TuneIn, absolutely no reason to get this app. But for a simple app that just gets people, I just want it to work. I just want to listen to a couple of stations. I just want to listen to Triple M, 3AW, and I was going to say 3LO, but it's not 3LO anymore. ABC FM, and I don't want to have to download all their apps. It's there and it works. And the other thing is that it has digital radio on there as well, because there are some digital radio stations in Australia that are only digital, they're not analog. You have Coffee and Buddha and a couple of other ABC stations, so you can get those stations through this app as well, which is handy if, like me, like I said, I live in a valley, the reception is terrible, digital radio is not very good. This for me is the most practical way to listen to those digital radio stations.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Commercial radios had all sorts of tilts at technology this year. I went to the launch earlier in the year for LG's Stylus DAB phone, which is a large-scale phablet-style smartphone that happens to be digital radio compatible. And that was a launch that was actually held in the offices of Sydney's Today FM, because they were very keen on it, and they said, oh, this is brilliant, and everyone will want one. And my immediate thought was, well, I mean, it wasn't a bad phone for the money, it's perfectly decent, but the issue for digital radio, of course, is that it's metropolitan only. It's been around for a number of years now, but they've never expanded that footprint. And I mean, Adam, I know you're in Melbourne, and you're still actually having problems getting it. Yeah. But if you get outside Melbourne, there's no digital radio whatsoever. So I guess it allows those stations to get a bit more of a footprint without them needing to actually invest in digital broadcasting outside those areas. But at the same time, and I suppose it probably doesn't do them any harm, because, they can still say, well, we've got all these listeners, and perhaps, I guess, through the app, they can even quantify them more discreetly rather than saying, oh, well, our survey suggests that 300,000 people in Sydney and Melbourne are listening to this terrible shock jock say horrible reactionary things. They can say, the app says that 500,000 are.
Yes.
Do you think they include the word terrible in those reports? What confuses me most about this entire thing is that, again, though, I mean, it's like to me, it's just too late. Like Freeview, it made sense because all the TV companies, or most of them, are still struggling to get a live TV broadcast to air. I mean, what ABC has it. I'm not sure if SBS has it. I think Seven had a version of it at one point. The live TV broadcast makes sense from Freeview's point of view, but every radio station has been streaming live, community radio stations, commercial radio stations. So whether you did it on a browser or you did it on a phone or a tablet, or you use TuneIn, as we were saying before, I don't understand why you would choose this app over the competition. I think that's what confuses me most. It's just, it's so late. I actually am stumped by it.
Yeah, it's a marketing. It's purely a marketing thing. It's purely a let's get some attention. Let's make it look like we're doing something. We're moving with the times, uniting the industry and getting them to work together. Which they seem to do a better job with the TV networks, who would rather watch each other die than fight against Netflix together. So that's what it is. It's just a marketing exercise to try and bring it all under one. It is interesting because the commercial radio is obviously, well, they don't like to say it. They're scared of things like Spotify. They put out a press release a couple of weeks ago to say how that radio was still the king of the road and that 80% of what we listen to in the car is live radio. And then they wanted to break down all these other stats of the little bits and pieces that people listen to in the car. And they didn't want to talk about what some of the small figures were because, statistical error and all that. Except for they had this 3% for Spotify and Apple. And they were very happy to say that only 3% of people listen to Spotify and Apple. And the first line in their press release is, people are shunning Spotify built into these new fancy cars to listen to the radio. So clearly they are clearly they are just a little bit nervous about this stuff, and they think that will just sort of help them position themselves. But yeah, radio is a bit like television. You've got your rusted-on listeners who aren't going to be there forever. But I mean, the only time I ever listen to the radio is actually in the car, because sometimes it's just the easiest thing to flick on, where radio in my house is a big deal. My kids were sitting on the couch the other day while I was testing this app, and they're like, "Are you listening to the radio?" Like, what the hell, man? I thought I knew you. Even my wife was like, I wonder why because she read the story and thought, I wonder why the hell you were listening to the radio. No one listens to the radio in my house.
I was going to say, Adam, I mean, why would you listen to the radio when you've got such great podcasts like this one?
Well, that is true. That is true.
Congratulations, Leigh. You can come back again.
Yes.
Yes! No.
Well, that just about wraps it up for another episode of Vertical Hold. Remember, if you've got any comments, hit us up in the comments section on YouTube, via Twitter, or the Facebook Vertical Hold page, or just shout really loud and we might hear you. Thanks to Leigh for joining us once again.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for listening, and remember, if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. Vertical Hold is proudly brought to you by Alcatel.